Hello, everyone. It is indeed a privilege and honor to be here in such an august and accomplished group of women with wings and Twilight Talks. I am deeply grateful to Shefali Sangal for her generous spirit and encouragement to share my story. I hope it inspires and opens lives to new possibilities because, trust me, nothing is impossible because all the possibilities are within you. Even the word impossible says impossible. So, let's begin my story. Life is rarely so simple. It never ever is all bad or all good. All sorrows can be borne if you put them into a story or tell a story about them. Isaac Dinesen once said. Otherwise, sorrows are all pain without sense or meaning. But joys too, it seems to me, need their context. And sometimes their coexistence needs to be born. The coexistence of possibility of the opposite can be what gives an experience its meaning. At its simplest, that's a story. I quote Camellia Gibb, author of This Is Happy. My childhood was an extremely checkered yet unique one. My father, the eldest son of a well-established Hindu joint family, grew up privileged. His education abroad led him to meet and fall in love with my mother, who was from Holland. Both suffered the pain of loss of a parent during their early childhood because of the Second World War. I always felt that I grew up with the best and the worst of both worlds. That made me different. I belonged to neither. At 2 years, my parents divorced, and it was a very confusing and terrifying time for both my elder brother Rahul, age 5, as it was extremely acrimonious. At the age of 4 and 7 years, respectively, Rahul and I were put on a train in the school party trip from VT station in Mumbai that was to take us to our elite boarding school in Missouri. My brother was informed to take care of me. And since I wasn't informed about my parents' plan, I felt utterly abandoned and almost cried the roof bogey out. At age 4, I learned the value of speaking up and the power behind my voice. However, the trauma lingered. We tried to hide through our growing years, and as a result, we grew into strong, resilient, intelligent, rebellious teens. We both were extremely talented, gifted, creative, and won many prizes both academically as well as in extracurricular activities like inter-school music, dance, and drama competitions. We threw ourselves into all our activities, looking for a way to deal with the deep pain and trauma that was asking to be acknowledged from within. The disconnect was to play out in the future in ways that would finally come full circle. My brother turned to drugs to numb the pain. I had just completed school at Loreto Convent Tarahole, Shimla in 1970 when my dad passed away from his brave and long battle with cancer. My world shattered as my life hinged around my father. Again, life offered us a change. We shifted to New Delhi from Amchi, Mumbai, leaving childhood friends from school who were strong anchors in my life. Unfortunately, This tragedy turned my brother to chemical substance abuse, so much so that while I was completing my final year in the College of Art, New Delhi, it developed into drug-induced schizophrenia, and he had to be given electric shock treatment. It took me many years to forgive my mother for letting the situation get so out of hand, and by ignoring it instead of looking at the possibility of other treatments. I later realized that she didn't have the tools of awareness at that time, since mental illness was considered a taboo subject and psychiatric care was at its nascent stages in India. Since I had never lived for long periods with my mother, who had remarried again, it was very difficult for me at first, because being used to the free, open-minded and non-orthodox way of life I was living, it was exhausting and extremely challenging to be in an environment that was restrictive, interfering, and manipulative. This led to a lot of disharmony in our lives. I turned outward, and this led me to abusive relationships. I eloped with a man who was an alcoholic and drug addict. I thought my love would change him. Big mistake. Things got worse. The violence increased, and I hung on in desperation because we had a son. I had to bear it for his sake, until one day, 5 years later, after a violent thrashing, I realized that this wasn't healthy for me or my son. I was done. It took superhuman strength to move through this tunnel, my first experience of the dark night of the soul. I realized I was beginning my spiritual journey, and I felt a deep, abiding presence within me, a grace. I stood my ground. I was only 21 years, and my stepfather very clearly told me that he was not going to support me emotionally or financially. So I looked for a job and moved out into a Barsati during the peak summer season. I would soak the bed sheets in water to stay cool, sometimes not sleep all night, until I could find and save the money to buy a new cooler. The difficulties I faced were numerous, but the peace and freedom I experienced were such wonderful companions that drove me onward. I was blessed with amazing workplaces and truly enlightened bosses. I worked diligently, sincerely, and honestly. Since I had an art background, my sense of color and style evolved. My work relationships were remarkably strong. And even though most people thought I was a foreigner, all the labels melted when we worked together as a team. We grew from strength to strength. Soon the company sent me to the fashion capitals of the world: Paris, London, Rome, Milan. I worked with all the top brand labels: Zara, H&M, Miss Selfridge, Marks and Spencer's. You name it, I worked with them. The buyers loved me as I got the pulse of what they were looking for. I began marketing my designs, and our company flourished with the export boom. My salary increased substantially. I was too scared to get attached, and although I had many friends, I was not ready for a deeper commitment. This led to an unfulfilled emotional life. Then I met a kind, gentle, and loving man who I felt was mature, even though he was younger than me. However, my work was such an important aspect of my life, my road to financial freedom. I hesitated to get married. I gave birth to two wonderful daughters. This totally changed the course of my life. One day, my husband left for work when my younger daughter was just 6 months old and never returned. He died in a tragic car accident. I was absolutely devastated and emotionally broken. I felt that my life was over and collected all my savings, my daughters, and left for Dharamshala, Himachal Pradesh. I lived in a small village for 3 years. I did children's book illustrations for UNICEF. I learned Tanka painting at the Tibetan library. I bought a loom and not only learned how to weave shawls, but also taught the local girls and contributed a couple of looms so that I could design shawls and sell them for a good profit to an upmarket boutique in New Delhi. I also taught Kundalini yoga at an ashram and made lifelong friends during my stay there. It was a period of deep personal growth. However, as the girls were growing and needed to go to proper schools, I had to return to New Delhi and began freelance design. Again, my hard work and determination saw me rekindle my old working relationships and develop strong new ones. I was focused on bringing up my children, and my career took up like never before. Just when everything seemed to be going perfectly, life threw me a curveball. I went for a gallbladder stone operation at AIIMS, which didn't happen because of some delay. And having discovered a lump in my breast, the doctor asked me casually to get it tested. One test after another, within 3 days, I was diagnosed with 3rd stage breast cancer and in the operation theatre. It was the beginning of a 3-year period of radiation, chemotherapy, and other treatments. I was really blessed to have been supported during this period by my old bosses who stood by me emotionally, financially, and spiritually. This was my second wake-up call. My journey to inner healing began. I had finally come full circle. Today, 10 years down the line, I look back in gratitude. The lessons learned have made me a deeper and much happier person. I now teach children from classes 6 to 12. My creative expression has moved to different levels and spheres of life. Each day, a gift for creating a better and happier world. In conclusion, believe in yourself and all that you are. Know that there's something inside you that is far greater than any obstacle. Everyone has a choice to be a victim or a victor from their painful past experiences. It's about how you perceive your experience. You can either empower yourself by all that you went through, knowing you came through it all, and not only became stronger, but also shared your light to help others. Or you can also feel sorry for yourself and stay stuck in self-pity. The choice is yours. You decide, nobody else does. Always remember, you define your past. Your past never defines you. Only you can be responsible for your happiness and self-worth. If you can't love and respect yourself, no one else will make that happen. As Dolly Parton, the very famous singer, very aptly said, I quote, "If you want the rainbow, you've got to put up with the rain." Thank you.